Everyone, welcome back to FPL Fran. Today's video is going to be my Gameweek 18 team selection. We had a very good game week once again. Got 95 points in the game week, and that sends us to 78,000 in the world, or roughly thereabouts. Yeah, great rank for this game week. I would say a lot of things going my way. Once again, that's what you need for a good game week with the green arrow, and very happy with how things played out. The most important thing is that I actually made one free transfer after my team selection video because we got some news. We got some news from Marco Silva in the pressers that the Kenny Tete injury was 8 to 10 game weeks long. I had Lewis Dunk in my team. I didn't want Lewis Dunk in my team. I was going to play Guardiola over Lewis Dunk initially and roll 2 free transfers into 3. And I made a move instead, which was Lewis Dunk into Castagna from Fulham. And that gives me 0.2 in the bank. And as some people have really rightly suggested, you know, my free transfers are at the top of the page, my total points at the top of the page, same with team value and in the bank value. So hopefully that kind of gives you a little bit more introspection in terms of my moves. For the game week, I got 6+ points more than I would have gotten if I didn't make a transfer. So that's a really nice positive, a net +6, because I wouldn't have played Dunk, right, for his 5-pointer. I would have played Guardiola instead for his 0-pointer versus Aston Villa, where he got a yellow and conceded 2 goals. So unfortunately, Morgan Rogers, right? Actually, close to the deadline stream, I remember someone even sent in a super chat saying that they'd rather play Rogers over João Pedro. Fair play to you if you are that person in the world who did that. Credits to you for that decision. I still felt like it was going to be 90 minutes of João Pedro versus Rogers. Usually I take penalty takers. Instead, Rogers had his best haul of the season so far. And I wouldn't say City were crushed from an attacking point of view, but I think in terms of the control element of the game, City were completely demolished because that holding pivot of Aston Villa looked really good. I really liked Onana and Kamara and Tielemans at the 10. And Rogers sort of playing at that left role, but a little bit more free roaming because his ability to sort of carry the ball on the left flank and actually not really mess up passes as someone playing a left wing position and sort of making interchanges with, let's say, a Dean and whoever sort of playing the holding position at the time in that triangle is really good. And then eventually, of course, Tielemans sort of plays a little bit deeper anyways, and Rogers becomes one of those sort of 2 players up top with Duran. And that's sort of how he scored his goals. So I really do like Rogers as a pick going forwards. I still think he's very strong. I'm glad I didn't make any move, let's say Rogers to Ahmad or something like that. I think it comes down to Semenyo, Rogers, Ahmad, Sarr are really good picks in the game. And so is Amad Diallo, right? So ultimately, I'm not really worried about whether I have Ahmad, whether I have Semenyo, whether I have Rogers. So these picks are all good, and I'm happy owning Rogers for now. I'm not going to expend transfers like this because unfortunately the biggest news of this game week was Saka got injured, right? Saka getting injured probably meant that me rolling was better because I would be able to use 3 free transfers instead, which I wanted to do in the first place. And instead of, let's say, making moves to positively affect my team outside of Saka, I now have to address the Saka situation with 2 free transfers, which is unfortunate. I also have to say that Liverpool looked astoundingly good, and more so Trent. Trent just looked absolutely sensational as a player, and that's going to drive my decision making for this game week because when you look at my team now, what are the problem points? First of all, Cunha, who could get suspended. Saka, who is now seemingly injured for, at least in my opinion, 2 game weeks time worth. I don't see him getting rushed personally, right? There's a 10-day break between game week 20 and 21. I just don't see Saka coming back before game week 21. So the way I see it, Odegaard becomes a very exceptional pick. And Bruno, of course, is the other competing transfer that I really like. Son as well, but Son's also quite expensive. And I'm not sure if Son's minutes are good enough to really say that he's outright better than an Odegaard short term and a Bruno medium to long term. So those are my thoughts in terms of Saka replacements. And yes, of course, there's a Maddison. There's these City players who could arguably perform better over the next 3 games, which are really good. But I want a robust pick, someone who can give me value in the short term. And either I go Odegaard or either I go Bruno as my transfer plan suggested. And then in terms of the rest of my team, when I talk about defense, it's quite simple to actually just play either Guardiola or Trent, you know, whoever I bring in terms of starting for this game week. And then Lewis hopefully starts versus Everton, which is a really good fixture. And Gabriel, of course, another player who just has an astoundingly good game with Ipswich at home. Flecken is one of those problem points within the team. So I arguably have 3 issues within the team. I think Mbumo is a soft problem, but not really a huge problem. So I'm not going to say that Mbumo is a problem. But then one of the players that I really want within the game is Trent, right? So there's 4 positions, I suppose, that I have to deal with where I want players. Like I want Alisson in the future. I want Trent in the future. I want a Saka replacement and I want a Cunha replacement. So 4 players, 2 free transfers. All I have to do this game week, unfortunately, is solve 2 issues with, I guess, 2 players coming in. And that's what I'm planning to do for Game Week 18. So let's jump into my team selection. So with Game Week 18 here, I think it's really helpful to actually use 11 of 5's predictions here for the game week. He's produced sort of the summary of what we can expect for these games in Game Week 18 here. And Arsenal clearly have the best fixture on paper, alongside Liverpool as well, who probably have, I would say, more expectations for goals, less expectations for clean sheets. But that's just the nature of, I think, the slight differences between Liverpool and Arsenal. Liverpool just a better team probably overall, a better team on attack, and just a little bit worse than Arsenal on defense, whereas Arsenal clearly lag much more on offense compared to the defense. But they both have amazing fixtures, and I have to say, this Ruud van Nistelrooy-led Leicester doesn't look any good, I would say, from a defensive point of view. They didn't actually concede that many chances versus Wolves, so yes, it looks like they completely collapsed versus Wolves and conceded 3 goals, and I think that's true, but the expected goals conceded wasn't actually that high, so I think people might be overrating how bad Leicester is compared to, let's say, Ipswich, who actually conceded north of 3.x, maybe like close to 4 xGC compared to Newcastle. So yes, Newcastle are a much better team than Wolves, and Wolves have proven to be one of the most blunt offenses within the league, and even though they have a new manager, that's what I would say is quite significant, that Ipswich have been a pretty poor defense. So I think there's a good chance, even without a Saka here, who probably decreases the ceiling of this Arsenal team in theory, to be a really good pick. As far as other fixtures to kind of look at, I think Bournemouth have a good fixture, Brighton have a good fixture as well, pretty good, mostly from the offensive point of view, I would say. On top of that, Man City once again are about to embark on really a good run of 3 fixtures in a row, but they have looked pretty flat. The only thing I can say that seems pretty guaranteed is whenever you play Everton, there's a pretty high chance that you and Everton will get a clean sheet, and that's really nice if you've been owning Man City defense up until now, and I have. As far as the rest of the field, I think Newcastle with a slightly worse fixture here. Same with Forest and Spurs, etc. Southampton, West Ham, nice, but not too much of us are really invested into them. And the Wolves versus Man United is just an amazing game for United, but clearly not the same sort of level of fixture compared to, I don't know, let's say the games that Liverpool, City, or even Arsenal have. So that's kind of my thoughts in terms of this immediate game week. And in terms of clean sheet odds, there's good chances, I think, to just simply play the Arsenal and Liverpool players that you have already, the City players that you have already. Even, let's say, Hall arguably is worth a play for this game week, because Hall's actually proven to be a really, really good pick. And maybe even, let's say, a Chelsea player could be quite interesting from a clean sheet point of view, because I'd say Fulham, if there's one thing that you can pinpoint to them being slightly weaker at, it's definitely the offensive point of view. So not too bad for these sorts of teams to target clean sheets into. And so that's a good segue into defense. And it's going to be a bit of a spoiler now, because you're going to see someone that hasn't been a part of my team be a part of my team, and that's Trent. I'm bringing Trent into my team. Call it FOMO, call it I just want Trent for Leicester at home, but that's that. I've brought in Trent for Guardiola, and I'm going to play a defense of Rico Lewis plus Trent plus Gabriel versus Ipswich at home, and reluctantly we have Flecken versus Brentford, or rather, sorry, Brighton away. Not a great fixture, but I think the question was really going to be between Alisson plus Guardiola versus Trent plus Flecken. And previously, I think I've always answered that I really wanted to have Guardiola over this run, but I don't know. I just think that it's close, and it's always been close, and Trent just looks so good. I think it's a 50-50 decision. Sometimes it's okay to kind of go with your narrative point of view. I think that Trent's lovely. Sometimes it's kind of noisy, I suppose, to go with goalkeepers and say that they're outright better, because with Alisson, you're really looking for clean sheets. It's not really like he's got other ways to points, whereas with Trent, it's like, do I believe there's a super haul out there, and do I want to catch that? And potentially the answer is yes. And I think maybe the answer could have also been Guardiola can get super hauls, and that's true. I think they're both great picks, but I have the luxury of being able to go for Trent, so I'm just going to go for Trent for this game week. Maybe I will revisit Alisson in the future, probably around game week 21, something like that. That makes a lot of sense for me and my team, because if I can give, let's say, Flecken the next 2 games, which include Southampton away, and of course a really tough game within Arsenal, then that's okay, I think. Yes, I'll still get City defense in terms of clean sheet share from Rico Lewis, hopefully, and I'll get Liverpool defensive share from Trent, and probably that's the way that I'm going to go about it. So Trent is my team, Flecken stays for now, reluctantly, but that's the way that I'm going to play it. And then in terms of my midfield, the big change this week is I've actually gone for Odegaard. And Odegaard for me is a very short-term move, but it could be something that can have medium to long-term value. I think in the immediate term, Ipswich at home is a really good fixture, so I'm not really worried about Saka coming back by then. I don't think we're going to get news from Arteta on this game week here, because they play on a Friday. They are the last game this game week. The presser is probably going to be after the deadline, and I don't know what journalists are going to be working over Christmas, but I encourage them to probably, not get us information, because I don't think they will. And that's that. I've gone for Odegaard because I really want to have Odegaard for the next 3 games. I think that Odegaard as the in-swinging sort of corner provider, that's almost, honestly, if you look at Saka's expected assists this season and you break it down by how he's getting these expected assists, 0.33 of Saka's expected assists per 90 comes from taking corners. Now, you might say that Odegaard is a worse corner taker than, let's say, Saka, and I think that's totally fair, but I'm going with Odegaard here, hoping that he can provide some of that value there. In open play, he's been really poor, and I think I'll completely acknowledge that Bruno is more exciting in open play. Bruno actually looked really good versus Bournemouth, but I'll take my chances with Odegaard over the next 3 with slightly better fixtures than Bruno, and one of Bruno's games includes Liverpool away. So it's really a question of Odegaard versus Bruno and whether I'm willing to expend one free transfer over this horizon to say that I'm going to pre-book a move of Odegaard to Bruno. I think it could go really poorly for me, but I'm willing to get the upside of the immediate sort of term value of Odegaard and take it from there. Also, we know that he's probably, I would say 90% going to be the penalty taker. So I'll take my chances with Odegaard as well on that. As far as the rest of the team, Palmer and Bumo Salah, I think all reasonably good. Palmer with the worst game compared to Salah. Salah, such an easy captaincy. I don't think there's any discussion that really needs to be done for this game week for that. So that's why Salah's going to be my captain. With Mbumo, he just has a Brighton team it's a middling fixture. And unfortunately, Arsenal's next, but I'm actually thinking that maybe I could keep Mbumo for this entire run, and that's why I'm going to keep Mbumo on my team. Eze doesn't really excite me, and I still think Mbumo is better than some of the budget mids within the game, which is why I'm happy to keep Mbumo for now. In the forward position, I'm going to be playing Cunha, but I think he's going to be suspended. So this team selection right now currently shows me playing a 3-4-3. I'm sure anyone watching this video will say that Cunha gets banned on Monday, and it might be the case that he does get banned on Monday, which means that I'm just going to be playing an auto sub, which is fine. With João Pedro and Isak, they're definitely going to play for me. João Pedro with one of the best fixtures in his horizon. I know Brighton have been poor, but still, his minutes have been really good. Welbeck doesn't seem like he's fit, and I'm excited to have João Pedro versus a really poor Brentford defense, even though I am fielding the Brentford defense. I know that, unfortunately, through Flecken. But Isak just continuously looks fantastic. I'm still really happy I made the move from Solanke 2 game weeks ago. It's gotten me a lot of points, and hopefully I actually bring back Solanke soon, because that's my plan. So on game week 19, I think the plan is to go Cunha to Solanke. In terms of the auto sub this game week, my bench order is going to be like this. It's going to be Hall, then Rodgers, then Castagna. I am flip-flopping between Hall and Rodgers constantly, right? It's really just, do I believe Newcastle will keep a clean sheet versus do I believe Rodgers can get a haul or just a goal or an assist? And it's slim pickings. So I'll probably make a decision over the course of this week to sort of finalize on Hall versus Rodgers. I do think, as I said, Rodgers looked really good, and Aston Villa specifically looked really good, debuting almost a new sort of team structure with Tielemans at the 10 and that pivot that I talked about. So maybe that could kind of, tease me towards a Rodgers, but Newcastle at home is always a nice, safe bet as a very strong team that have been able to get lots of clean sheets in the past. So I right now am sitting with Hall and Castagna at the back of the bench, but that's it for my team selection. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys have a wonderful time ahead and a happy Christmas or holiday season. So take care, goodbye, and I'll see you guys soon.